The first thing I did when I realized I'd somehow come back to that night, the night I burned alive, was laugh. Not just any laugh. A cold, hollow kind of laugh that honestly made even me feel a little sick. Because right there in front of me, doing exactly what he did last time, was Lucas, my boyfriend. And just like before, he wasn't running toward me, no. He was throwing himself straight into the flames for her, Rachel, the girl he never could let go of. No matter what lies he told me. Everyone probably thought I'd lost my mind. Sitting there in the middle of the chaos with this creepy little smile on my face. But I wasn't scared this time. I knew exactly how this night would end, because I'd already lived it. In my last life, I made the mistake of telling him the truth, my biggest secret, that I was the daughter of the hospital's director. I did it for him, for us. And because of that, he chose me that night, leaving Rachel behind to die in the fire. After that, he got everything he wanted, my family's wealth, the hospital, the reputation. And when I was no longer useful to him, he didn't even flinch. He left me there to burn alive. I was pregnant with his child when I begged him, when I screamed until my throat gave out. And all he did was look down at me with that same cold, disgusted expression and say, "Nina, if it wasn't for you, Rachel would still be alive. Everything she suffered in that fire, I want you to feel that. 100 times worse. I remember every word, every second. So imagine what it felt like to wake up right back in that moment, lying on that same floor, with Rachel trapped under a collapsed cabinet right next to me. I could feel the sharp pain tearing through my leg, blood pooling beneath me where glass had sliced into my skin. I gasped, fully awake, fully aware of what was coming, and then I heard it. Her voice, weak and shaking, whispering, "Lucas, please, help me." I looked up, stunned. And there he was again, dropping to his knees beside her, panicking, trying to lift the burning table off her body. It was all so familiar, so cruelly the same, that I couldn't deny it anymore. I'd really been given another shot at this nightmare. Then I heard Chloe, my best friend, shouting from the doorway, "Lucas! Are you out of your mind? Get Nina first. She's your girlfriend." But Lucas didn't even glance at me. He didn't hesitate. He just grabbed Rachel, lifted her into his arms, and ran. And I laughed again, bitter and broken. Because wasn't that exactly how it had always been? Sure, I was the one officially dating him. But in his heart, there had never been anyone but her. He only picked me last time because I handed him the key to my family's power. And Rachel wasn't just the hospital's golden girl. There were rumors she was the heir to Linden Medical Corporation, one of the biggest players in the industry. Honestly, even if I had never existed, Lucas probably would have gone after her anyway. I tried to move, but the cabinet crushed my leg even harder, and I felt glass tearing deeper into my skin. I was stuck, bleeding, shaking, when Lucas finally turned to look at me. Not with worry, not with even the smallest hint of fear, but with that same cold, calculated expression. He said, "Rachel's the heir to Linden Medical. If something happens to her, this hospital's future is over. I'm doing this for the greater good. You're not seriously hurt. Wait here, I'll come back for you after I get her out." I couldn't stop myself from laughing again. If I hadn't already lived through this, I might have actually believed him. But I knew better. I knew exactly what was coming next. Because in my last life, after he saved me, I'd only had seconds to warn everyone before the place exploded. And I remembered how he abandoned Rachel when the fire got worse. So why the hell would I believe he'd come back for me now? But the last thing I wanted was for Chloe, or anyone else who actually cared about me, to die because of him. I forced myself up, biting down on the pain ripping through my body, and screamed as loud as I could, "Chloe, don't come in here. This place is gonna blow. Get out. Everyone, get out now." I saw Lucas freeze, still holding Rachel. He turned back toward me, his face twisting like I'd just betrayed him. And he spat. "So this is who you really are. I didn't think you'd stoop this low. If you waited just 30 more minutes, the fire department could have put this out. But now, what will everyone think of me, huh? Why can't you be more like Rachel? Gentle, selfless." I almost choked on the laugh that rose in my throat. Gentle, selfless. This man had no problem crawling into my bed night after night, whispering lies like they were gospel. And now here he was, holding her, acting like I was the monster. And right on cue, Rachel tugged on his sleeve with that soft, helpless voice of hers. "Lucas, I don't feel so good." And just like that, I watched him forget I ever existed. "Hold on, Rachel, I'm not going to let anything happen to you." That's what he said, right before he picked her up in his arms and carried her out without even looking back at me. I clenched my jaw so hard I thought my teeth might crack. I pushed with everything I had, trying to shove the cabinet off my body. Pain tore through my leg like a burning blade, cutting straight to the bone. But honestly, compared to what I'd already survived in my last life, it was nothing. I heard Chloe, my best friend, the only person who knew who I really was, drop to her knees nearby. Her voice cracked, shaking with anger. "You bastard, Lucas. How could you do this? The director's never going to forgive you." But of course, even her words didn't make him flinch. Instead, he laughed. A cold, bitter sound that made my skin crawl. "Don't be stupid. If there's anyone the director's afraid of losing, it's me. Rachel's the only daughter of Linden Medical. If anything happens to her, the director's the one who'll tear me apart." I bit down on my lips so hard I tasted blood as I dragged myself inch by inch through the narrow gap under the cabinet. My thigh had split open, blood soaking through my clothes so fast it stained the floor beneath me bright red. But I didn't care. I couldn't afford to. I had to survive. Time was running out. With what little breath I had left, I shouted at Chloe, "Stop wasting your breath on him. Just go. Please, I'm begging you. Save yourself." And I swear, I'll never forget what happened next. In my last life, Lucas was the one who poured gasoline all over me. His eyes were full of hatred as he blamed me for everything that had happened to Rachel. He ignored my screams. He ignored the life growing inside me. He struck the match, and he watched me burn. He dumped every ounce of guilt on me like her death was my cross to bear. But this time, Chloe didn't leave me behind. Even with the fire roaring around us, she ran straight into the flames. "Hold on to me," she shouted through the smoke. I couldn't breathe. The air was thick, choking me, turning everything into a blur of heat and darkness. Except for her, that tiny, fragile figure pushing through the fire, fighting her way to me. I coughed until my throat felt like sandpaper. "You're insane," I screamed, my voice raw and broken. "Get the hell out of here. Go!" But she didn't listen. She gritted her teeth, grabbed me, and hauled half my body over her shoulder, one step at a time, dragging me toward the door. The fire was everywhere. I could feel it licking at our skin, see her hair catching fire at the ends, smoke curling from the strands. But she didn't stop. She didn't even seem to notice. She just kept going. Her face was smeared black with soot, but to me, she looked like the only light left in that hell. I glanced at my watch, my heart pounding. We were running out of time. If we didn't get out now, we were both going to die in there. I took a shaky breath, swallowed the fear clawing at my throat, and whispered, "Chloe, wait. I'm gonna count down. When I say go, we run. No matter what, you run. Promise me." She didn't stop. She didn't even look at me. All she did was mutter, breathless but steady, "You can scream all you want, but I'm not letting go. I'm not leaving you behind." Something inside me broke then. I stopped fighting her. I locked my eyes on that door, the only shot we had left to live, and I started counting. 3, 2, 1, go! I screamed with everything I had, then pushed forward as hard as I could, dragging her with me. And right as we crossed that door, the lab exploded. The blast hit us like a freight train, slamming us to the ground. My ears were ringing so loud I couldn't hear anything. My vision went white, like the whole world had shattered. All I could hear was that high-pitched ringing over and over, until finally, like a faint echo, I heard her voice, shaking, desperate. "Vanessa! Vanessa, can you hear me? Say something." I blinked, my body screaming in pain, and croaked out, I'm okay, but my leg." Chloe followed my gaze and went pale. "Don't look, just stay here. I'll be right back." She ran off, and a few moments later, she came back with a team and a stretcher. They lifted me up, and I could see the look on everyone's faces shift. One of the younger doctors gasped, "Jesus Christ, how many stitches is that going to take?" Every inch of me felt like it had been ripped apart, but I never passed out. As they rushed me through the ER, I caught a glimpse of him, Lucas. He was holding Rachel like she was made of glass, whispering soft words, stroking her shoulder like she was the only person that ever mattered. He didn't even glance in my direction. A nurse I'd always gotten along with looked down at me, her voice cracking as she whispered, "Vanessa, what the hell did you go through?" Someone else muttered under their breath, "Multiple fractures, severe tissue damage. She's gonna need a year, maybe more, to heal." The nurse paused, tears in her eyes, and for the first time that night, someone actually gave me something to hold on to. "Thank God, at least your right hand's still okay. When you recover, you'll still be able to operate." I let out a weak, breathless laugh. I wanted to say something, anything, but the pain was just too much to bear. The head nurse leaned down, whispering in my ear, "I heard Rachel only has minor injuries. Look at how worried Lucas is about her." Chloe snapped. She pointed right at Lucas's face, practically shaking with rage. "You're disgusting, you make me sick." But before she could even finish, Rachel let out this soft little cough, her voice shaking just enough to sound pitiful. "Lucas, I feel a little dizzy." And just like that, I watched him melt all over again. He turned to her, his voice dropping soft and sweet. "Hang in there, Rachel. The others are on their way." Then he glanced back at me like I was nothing but a thorn in his side. His tone snapped ice cold as he barked at Chloe. "Vanessa's fine now, isn't she? What does my relationship with her have to do with you?" I stared right at him, dead in the eyes, and pushed the words out like poison. "From this moment on, there is no us. We're done." Chloe practically cheered next to me, nodding so hard it looked like her neck might snap. "Good, dump his sorry ass already." There was no point arguing with him anymore. Lucas froze, like he hadn't seen that coming. His voice cracked as he asked, "Vanessa, what the hell are you gonna do now?" I smiled. Cold, sharp. "What, you think you're worth it?" I forced myself not to cry, locking my eyes on Rachel, who was hiding behind him like the spineless little snake she was. "You'd rather save another woman than your own girlfriend. That's the kind of man you really are." Rachel's eyes filled with tears instantly. She whimpered, voice shaking just enough to hook the crowd's sympathy. "Vanessa, how can you say that about Lucas? He thought you were stronger than me. He thought I needed more help, that's all." The whole room spiraled into chaos. Lucas yelling in frustration, Rachel sobbing like she was the victim. Whispers started swirling from the staff nearby. "Of course the goddess needs more help. Look how fragile she is. Yeah, Lucas only did what was right for everyone. And she's the heir to Linden Medical. Saving her was obviously the smarter move." And in the middle of that noise, my dad finally showed up, just off the plane from overseas. Lucas's face lit up the second he saw him. He practically ran to him, putting on his most heroic act. "Mr. Thompson, the lab explosion. I risked my life to save Rachel. If we take good care of her, she might even secure that new partnership deal between Linden Medical and our hospital." My dad's face went dark. "Where's Vanessa?" he asked. Lucas froze. He really thought my dad had come here to blame me. He stuttered, scrambling for words. She was in the lab when it exploded, but Rachel said she didn't do anything wrong. If anyone's to blame, it's Vanessa. She's already been rescued, just some minor injuries. But honestly, I don't think she's fit to handle any more lab work. Rachel can take over just fine." Hearing that, I swear I felt my blood run cold. My dad's face turned stone cold in an instant. And me? I was lying right there, watching it all unfold with this cold, dead smile on my face. Oh, just wait. Without me, without Vanessa Thompson, Lucas, you're going to learn what real pain feels like. Before I could process anything else, everything went black again. When I opened my eyes, it was already late the next afternoon. My whole body was wrapped tight in thick bandages. I couldn't move my arms or legs, but even with all the pain, I felt alive, like I'd been born again. "Vanessa!" Chloe came running to my bedside, looking like she hadn't slept a second but smiling so hard it made me tear up. I tried to lift my hand to wave at her, but pain shot through my body like lightning. She started crying right there, wiping her tears with the back of her hand. "You idiot, do you even know how badly you're hurt?" I gave her the weakest smile I could manage. "At least, I'm still alive." This time, I didn't owe Lucas a damn thing. Neither I nor my father were ever going to let him touch us again. Chloe wiped her face, laughing and crying at the same time. I told your dad everything. He's furious. Tomorrow, he's calling a meeting. He's gonna make sure everyone pays for what happened in that lab. And when I heard that, I couldn't stop the tears from finally falling. In my last life, because of me, my father suffered alongside me. I felt the lump rise in my throat, but I pushed it down and turned to Chloe. Chloe, there's one more thing I need you to do. She gave me this soft, reassuring smile as she brushed the hair off my forehead. Anything, just say the word. I swallowed hard, feeling the guilt already weighing on me. Before the explosion, can you check the security footage from the lab for me? She didn't hesitate for even a second. Don't worry, I've already had someone pull it. There are a few inconsistencies, but I've handled it. I stared at her, and the guilt hit me like a tidal wave. In my last life, I let Lucas's lies blind me so badly that I actually believed Chloe was jealous of me, that she was scheming behind my back. I even cut her out of my life completely, without ever giving her a chance to explain. And looking at her now, I realized just how badly I'd messed up. I threw away something priceless, something I'd never be able to replace. I was about to close my eyes and try to get some rest when the door opened. Lucas walked in, and right behind him, Rachel. She stood there looking like she'd just stepped out of a damn photo shoot. Perfect hair, flawless skin. While I was lying there, wrapped in bandages, unable to even move, Chloe sucked in a sharp breath and muttered under her breath, thick with sarcasm. Well, would you look at that? The goddess is totally fine. Lucas didn't even acknowledge her. He walked straight over to me, reaching for my hand. I pulled away, disgusted, but he didn't even seem to notice how pathetic he looked right then. Instead, he smiled and said, Vanessa, look at you. You're okay now, right? Rachel's already promised. She's going to secure the partnership between Linden Medical and the hospital. I'm about to get promoted. Aren't you happy for me? I couldn't stop the cold, bitter laugh that came out of me. Happy? You think I should be happy? After I almost died in that explosion, you really think this is something to celebrate? Rachel let out this little sigh, her face twisting into something that looked almost sad. I never thought you'd be this selfish, Vanessa, she whispered, her voice trembling just enough to sound believable. All this, just because you're jealous. You'd really destroy Lucas's future over this? She sniffled, lowering her gaze like she actually pitied me. I feel sorry for you. I stared her down, cold and steady. You want to know what really destroyed his future? I leaned in, my voice dropping like a blade. The second Lucas left me to die, everything he ever dreamed of went up in flames. Lucas's face twisted with rage. He pointed a shaking finger at me. Vanessa, Rachel came here because she cares. She even wants to apologize. And this is how you act? Don't forget, I'm still your boyfriend. You should be grateful, not attacking me. I looked him dead in the eye and spat the words like venom. Boyfriend? You've got to be kidding me. I leaned back, cold and final. We're done. Now get the hell out of my room. The shouting must have drawn a crowd outside. I could hear the whispers. Seriously, what's wrong with Dr. Thompson? She's fine now. She should just let it go. Exactly. What's more important than her boyfriend's career? If it were me, I'd put up with the pain for the greater good. Once Dr. Lucas makes it big, she'll benefit too. Chloe spun around, snapping at the people outside with a voice sharp enough to slice glass. Shut your mouths. You don't have a clue what you're talking about. Tomorrow, the director's calling a meeting. The truth about that explosion, everything is coming out. Let's see who's left standing then. For the first time, Lucas actually seemed to realize Chloe wasn't someone he could just brush off. He turned to her, frowning. What the hell are you talking about? A meeting? Accountability? Chloe crossed her arms, cool and steady. That's right, she said, her eyes locking onto Rachel. The real cause of the lab explosion. Some people already know exactly what happened. Rachel's face went ghost white. Her whole body started trembling. Lucas immediately stepped in front of her, holding her like she might fall apart. Don't worry, Rachel, he whispered. I believe you. Rachel collapsed into his arms, shaking with fake sobs. She looked up at him with those pitiful, tear-filled eyes. You believe me, right? That day in the lab, I warned Vanessa. I told her to be careful, but she said I was just trying to interfere. Her voice cracked like the memory was too painful to bear. And then the explosion happened. She buried her face in his chest. I tried my best to save her. I really did. The crowd outside had just started to settle when Rachel's soft, trembling voice stirred them all up again, turning them right back against me. So it really was Dr. Thompson's fault the lab exploded. No wonder Dr. Lucas chose not to save her. I mean, Rachel's completely innocent after all. Lucas looked at her, fragile, helpless, playing the victim like she was born for it. And I could almost see his heart breaking all over again. His rage snapped. He spun around, pointing a shaking finger at me as he shouted, "Vanessa Thompson, you made the mistake, and now you refuse to own up to it. If you apologize to Rachel right now, maybe I'll put in a good word for you at tomorrow's meeting. Maybe I'll help you avoid the worst of it." Chloe and I exchanged a look. Then I smiled. Cold, calm. "How about this?" I said quietly. "If you both apologize to me right now, maybe I'll consider letting you keep a shred of dignity tomorrow." Rachel let out a small, mocking laugh. "Vanessa, everything I did it for your sake. Why can't you just appreciate that?" I didn't waste another second on them. I reached for the call button. The head nurse, who had clearly been listening to all the chaos, pushed through the crowd and walked into the room. I pointed right at Lucas and Rachel, keeping my voice perfectly steady. "I wasn't aware Dr. Lucas or Dr. Rachel were assigned to this department. Why are they hanging around here instead of doing their actual jobs?" The nurse, who had never liked Lucas to begin with, smirked coldly. "Dr. Lucas, I think it's time you stopped bothering Dr. Thompson. She's just come out of surgery. She needs rest." Lucas shot me one last glare, but in the end, he grabbed Rachel's hand and stormed out of the room. Chloe stood there for a moment, watching them leave, before she whispered softly, "You've changed." I gave her a weak smile. I wasn't sure if it was bitter or just sad. But after getting burned once, after finally seeing Lucas for the monster he really was, I knew this change had come at a hell of a price. Later that day, after my dad had finished handling whatever emergencies he'd flown back to deal with, he rushed into my hospital room. He looked exhausted, unshaven, like the weight of the world had been sitting on his shoulders. "Vanessa, how did this happen?" he whispered, voice rough with disbelief. "I was only gone a few days. And now this." His hands trembled as he gently touched the bandages on my face. Looking up at him, at the silver creeping through his hair, at the worry etched deep into his skin, I couldn't stop the tears from falling. In my last life, it was my blind faith in Lucas that had destroyed everything. Our family's hospital, built over generations, was taken from us. Our fortune, gone. My father, broken by grief, falling ill and dying not long after. And Lucas? He used our downfall to rise to the top, building his name on the ashes of my family. But not this time. My dad was still alive. I grabbed his hand, choking on my own words. "Chloe probably told you already. The lab exploded. But Dad, you built that lab for me. And I didn't take care of it the way I should have." My dad's voice dropped, tight with barely restrained anger. "My precious girl, don't you worry about a thing." His hand squeezed mine, steady and sure. "I don't care who she is, even if she's the heir to Linden Medical Corporation. I'm not afraid of her. I won't let anyone hurt you again." The next morning, Chloe wheeled me into the meeting. Meeting wasn't even the right word. It was a full-blown hospital assembly. Lucas and Rachel sat directly across from me, both of them looking so heartbreakingly sad, like I was the villain who had ruined everything. The room was packed with board members, department heads, and senior staff. My dad sat at the head of the table, his expression dark as a storm, but when he saw me, there was a flicker of pain in his eyes, quickly replaced by cold steel resolve. He looked directly at Rachel. "Dr. Linden," he said flatly, "you and Dr. Thompson were the only ones in the lab when it happened. Are you prepared to confirm that, Doctor? Thompson was at fault?" Rachel flinched, her whole body shaking. Her voice came out barely above a whisper. "Mr. Thompson, yes. I tried to warn her." My dad slammed his hand down on the table, the sound echoing through the room. "You warned her? Do you have any idea what lying in this room is going to cost you?" Rachel nearly broke down right then and there, but Lucas jumped up, rushing to her defense. "Mr. Thompson, please. You're being unfair. Rachel would never lie." My dad glared at him, his voice cutting like a knife. "No one asked you to speak." Lucas's mouth snapped shut. He had a reputation, sure, But against the Thompson family? He didn't dare push any further. Rachel looked like she was about to fall apart. Her face was pale, her eyes red-rimmed. She swallowed hard, voice shaking. Mr. Thompson, I would never risk Linden Medical Corporation reputation. Not for anything. And the second she mentioned Linden Medical Corporation, the whole room started buzzing. Whispers spread like wildfire, filling the air with tension thick enough to choke on. The executives who had been dozing off suddenly snapped upright, their faces stiffening as whispers rippled through the room. Is she really the heir to Linden Medical? Someone muttered. Linden is our biggest partner. If we piss her off, we should just let it go. It was just a minor lab accident. No one died. Exactly. Let's issue a warning to Dr. Thompson and move on. Hearing those words, my father's face drained of color like all the blood had been sucked from him. He shot to his feet, pointing straight at the executives, his voice booming across the room. So you're saying, because Dr. Linden is the daughter of a corporate partner, my daughter, who did nothing wrong, has to take the fall for all of this? I looked at them, bitterness curling in my stomach. These people would gladly throw me off a cliff just to protect their precious business interests. One by one, they started to avert their eyes, shrinking back in shame. My father's expression darkened until it was blacker than tar. Without another word, he raised his hand. Chloe nodded immediately and stepped forward. The screen at the front of the room flickered to life, showing high-definition footage from the lab right before the explosion. Rachel went pale as a sheet, her lips trembling. She started shaking her head over and over. No way. There weren't supposed to be cameras in the lab. That's against policy. My father shot her a cold glare. That lab was a gift, my gift to my daughter. I can install whatever I want. I don't need permission. Lucas turned to me in shock. I didn't say a word. The whole room fell dead silent. You could hear a pin drop. Until finally, someone whispered, Wait, you mean Dr. Thompson is his daughter? Chloe ignored the murmurs and pressed play. The footage showed me in my lab coat and mask, calmly preparing the experiment like I'd done 100 times before. Every move was textbook perfect. Then, suddenly, the flask in front of me burst into flames. No warning, just a sudden explosion of fire and thick, black smoke. Lucas immediately pointed at the screen. There, Vanessa, she must have messed something up. He turned toward me like some kind of hero. It's okay. I'll take the fall for you. Rachel let out a shaky breath, tears glistening in her eyes. I don't want Vanessa to get in trouble. It was my fault. I should have warned her sooner. Bang. My father slammed his hand on the table again. Rachel flinched so hard she almost fell out of her chair. Most of the board members, spineless as ever, started shifting uncomfortably, already folding under her crocodile tears and the shadow of Linden Medical's power. They muttered, maybe we should just let this go. She's the heir to Linden after all. Making this a scandal won't help anyone. For a split second, even I started to doubt myself. But it lasted only a moment. I'd run that experiment hundreds of times. I could do it in my sleep, and I knew the materials I used weren't flammable. Even if something had gone wrong, it could never have caused that kind of explosion. Chloe caught my eye, steady and sure. The corner of her mouth twitched into a confident smile as she turned back to the board. Ladies and gentlemen, you've all seen the fire. But did any of you actually see Dr. Thompson make a single mistake before it happened? She didn't wait for their answer. Instead, she zoomed in on a second feed. One taken from a backup camera behind my workstation. And there it was, clear as day. Rachel, sneaking into the frame while my back was turned. Leaning over my workstation, carefully pouring some unknown liquid into my reaction flask. Quick, subtle, calculated. It only took a few seconds. My fist clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. The rage I'd swallowed for so long came roaring back to life. My father stood up again, pointing directly at her. Rachel Linden, do you have anything you'd like to say? She went ghost white and collapsed to the floor. No, this has to be a mistake, she wailed. Chloe, you edited that footage, didn't you? You're trying to frame me. Right then, my father leaned down, whispering something into his phone. A second later, the door to the boardroom burst open. My father's assistant stepped into the room first, his face dark and unreadable. And right behind him came a woman. She looked powerful, composed, her sharp eyes scanning the room like she owned it. Her skin was pale, but her presence was undeniable. She stopped right in front of everyone, her gaze locking on Rachel. "Ms. Linden," she said coolly, her voice slicing through the tension like a blade, "the so-called heir to Linden Medical." The board members practically jumped to their feet, panic flashing across their faces. "Mr. Thompson, maybe we should discuss this privately," someone mumbled. "We can't afford to upset Linden Medical. Our hospital needs their partnership." "Exactly. Look, they even sent someone important. Let's not make this worse than it already is." My dad let out a cold, bitter laugh. He lit a cigarette, taking a slow, steady drag before exhaling a long stream of smoke. His voice was low but dripping with contempt. "Madam Linden," he said coldly, "take a good look. Is this really your daughter?" The moment he said Madam Linden, Rachel's face drained of all color. She lowered her head, trembling, too afraid to even look up. The woman in front of us let out a mocking laugh, her tone filled with disgust. "My daughter," she said flatly, "is currently studying abroad." She took a slow step forward. "I came here today to find out who dared to impersonate her." Without another word, she reached out, grabbed Rachel's chin, and forced her to lift her head. There was beauty there, maybe, but the rot in her heart was showing in every trembling breath she took. The same board members who had just been bending over backward to protect her suddenly flipped like cowards. Unbelievable. She tricked the entire hospital. She nearly ruined the director's daughter. She should be in prison. Lucas opened his mouth like he wanted to defend her. But when he saw the sheer desperation and madness in Rachel's eyes, he froze. He backed away, his voice shaking. Rachel, how could you do this to Vanessa?" Honestly, all I felt was disgust. This man was the most pathetic, hypocritical snake I'd ever known. Rachel let out a bitter laugh. She yanked her face out of Madam Linden's grip, pointed straight at Lucas, and snapped. "And you think you have the right to judge me? You followed me around like a pathetic lapdog the second you thought I was the heir to Linden Medical. Don't pretend you're any different. You act like you're so noble, but you're just as filthy as the rest of them." She spat the words like venom. "You saved me? Please. You were only ever saving yourself." As much as I hated her, I couldn't deny it. Every single word she said was true. Lucas was nothing more than a spineless, self-serving fraud. Before anyone could react, a team of police officers walked into the boardroom. They headed straight for Rachel. "Ms. Linden," the lead officer announced, "you're under investigation for attempted assault and fraud. Please come with us." Rachel's body crumpled like a puppet with its strings cut. She collapsed to the floor, pale as a corpse, her wide, terrified eyes locking on Lucas. "Lucas, please, save me," she whimpered. But him, he didn't even flinch. He turned away coldly, pretending he didn't even know her. Rachel hit the ground like a dying flower, wilted and broken, and just like that she was dragged away, leaving the boardroom in stunned silence. Only the three of us remained, me, Chloe, and Lucas. He stood there like a statue, frozen and shaking. Finally, he stumbled toward me, face twisted in fake remorse, tears welling in his eyes. "Vanessa, I'm sorry, I was tricked too." He dropped to his knees in front of my wheelchair, voice trembling. "You have to believe me. I love you. I've always loved you." Disgust surged through me like bile. I didn't say a word. Chloe, fed up beyond belief, shoved him back roughly, wiping her hands like she'd just touched something filthy. I stared down at him, cold and unmoved. Then I leaned back, curling my lip into a cruel smile. Rachel needed a lapdog. I paused, my voice dropping to a razor's edge. "But Vanessa Thompson, don't." The fallout came fast. Rachel Liu's case went to trial. She was sentenced to a year in prison, her medical license revoked for life. Thanks to good behavior, she got out early. As for Lucas, my dad fired him on the spot. No hospital dared to hire him after that. He went from rising star to nothing more than a stray dog, kicked to the curb by the very people he'd tried to impress. The great Dr. Lucas, reduced to nothing but a cautionary tale. A year later, I was almost fully healed. With my father's blessing, I returned to work at the hospital, but on my very first day back, I ran into Lucas. He was wearing a baseball cap and a surgical mask, sneaking around the hospital like some kind of petty criminal. Chloe scoffed beside me, rolling her eyes. Seriously? He really thinks dressing like that's gonna fool anyone? I froze for a second, stunned. Chloe leaned in, grinning. You didn't hear? He's sick. And guess what? Our hospital just happens to specialize in treating exactly that. She clicked her tongue, shaking her head. Karma's a bitch. I couldn't help but let out a cold laugh. Of course. That disease suited him perfectly. Later that night, after my shift ended, I headed toward the parking lot. And just like something out of a bad dream, Lucas stepped right in front of me. I gasped, startled. He rushed forward like he was trying to steady me, but I instinctively pulled away. Scratching the back of his neck awkwardly, he gave me this pathetic little smile. I heard from the nurses you were back, so I came to see you. Vanessa, do you have any idea how long I've been looking for you? He took a step closer, lowering his voice like it was supposed to mean something. We never really broke up, you know. How could you just leave me like that? I took a slow, steady breath, keeping my face completely blank. A year ago, I said quietly, you told me yourself, we were done. So stop looking for me. But Lucas suddenly grabbed my wrist, right over an old scar. Pain shot through me like fire, but instead of letting go, he tightened his grip. His voice dropped to a low, bitter growl. Vanessa Thompson, if it weren't for your father, do you really think I'd be standing here like this? You owe me. I let out a sharp, cold laugh. You've got to be kidding me. I yanked my hand back, glaring at him. You have syphilis, Lucas. And you still think I owe you something? You should be ashamed. His face twisted with rage, turning an ugly shade of purple. He raised his hand like he was about to hit me, but before he could... Whack! A pink handbag smacked him straight across the face. Lucas, you bastard, a voice screeched. I turned around and there she was, Rachel. Except this wasn't the polished, perfect Rachel I used to know. Prison had taken something out of her. Her face was gaunt, twisted with anger. She pointed a shaking finger at him, screaming, I just got out of prison, and you used me like a free whore and tossed me aside like trash. And now you're crawling back to that bitch Vanessa? Lucas, still reeling from the slap, stood frozen for a second, then shoved her hard. Get lost. You think you even compare to Vanessa? Look at yourself, he sneered, disgusted. You're not even worth the dirt on her shoes. I couldn't stop the dark, cold laugh that slipped out. I raised my voice on purpose, just loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. Hey, Lucas. Syphilis doesn't just go away on its own. Don't forget to get checked. We wouldn't want you spreading it around the hospital, would we? Rachel's eyes snapped wide open. She let out a shriek. What, Lucas? You gave it to me too. Before he could even deny it, she lunged at him. The two of them started clawing at each other like rabid animals, tearing into each other in the middle of the parking lot. I didn't bother stepping in. I calmly walked to my car, got in, locked the door, and watched through the window as their fight spiraled out of control. Rolling my eyes, I pulled out my phone and texted security. 2 psychos fighting in the parking lot. Please handle it. I had barely hit send when, bang! A sickening thud echoed across the lot. I looked up, eyes wide. Rachel was lying motionless in a pool of blood. A car sat frozen nearby, the driver shaking in shock. Lucas, his face twisted with fear, tried to run, but security grabbed him within seconds. Staff rushed over. Someone shouted, "She's dead!" I sat frozen in my car, staring in disbelief. And then, I heard someone whisper, She was 5 weeks pregnant. The parking lot footage confirmed everything. It showed Lucas shoving Rachel directly into the path of the oncoming car. No doubt, no accident, no excuses. He was charged with murder. As a doctor, I knew exactly what he was facing. His disease was incurable. And now, he'd rot in prison for the rest of his miserable life. Honestly, it was the perfect ending for a man like him.